I've seen horrors that you've seen. But you have no right to call me a murderer. You have a right to kill me. You have a right to do that. But you have no right to judge me. It's impossible through words to describe.
Many stories create unique characters, putting them through various events and experiences. These characters go through numerous situations, and the quality and appeal of these events greatly influence the overall story. However, one thing to remember is that the characters who do not remain indifferent to the events they experience play a crucial role. The concept we call clichés is somewhat controversial. Whether a character or an element becomes a cliché is determined by time. The Matrix from 1999 was a revolution. Its story was remembered as highly original by many. However, beyond the story, its most captivating aspect was the use of visual effects. However, today, the use of visual effects has become commonplace. People have started to grow tired of them. The chosen one cliché is no longer something that could work in a story written today. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Yes, the Dune film also contains the chosen one cliché. But remember, Dune is an old book series. Back then, such clichés were completely acceptable and even considered innovative. They felt epic to people. Don't forget The Lord of the Rings. What does Apocalypse Now have to do with cliché characters? Well, Apocalypse Now created a cliché. Perhaps you've never noticed it until now. In fact, you might not even realize that one of its characters is a cliché. Fictional projects like Spec Ops, The Line, Metal Gear, and The Rock are essentially reinterpretations of Apocalypse Now, and it all revolves around one character, Colonel Kurtz. Madness. That is exactly what we are here to talk about. Apocalypse Now masterfully drives its characters into madness, and you, as the viewer, are pulled into that descent alongside them. First and foremost, we need to talk about a book. The origin of it all, Heart of Darkness. Apocalypse Now is not a direct adaptation of Heart of Darkness. In fact, what the two try to convey, their character portrayals, and their goals are almost entirely different. Of course, the main theme is still war, but the way they interpret war is far from the same. The biggest similarity between Heart of Darkness and Apocalypse Now lies in the character of Kurtz. He is the central figure, the pivot of the story. In both narratives, the main characters journey towards Kurtz without ever seeing or hearing him directly, relying only on second-hand accounts. This is especially true for the protagonist of the book, who begins to admire Kurtz based on these scattered stories. In the film, Captain Benjamin spends much of his time with Kurtz's dossier, provided by the general, which details almost his entire life. Throughout his time on the boat, the captain attempts to understand Kurtz, trying to unravel why he descended into madness. So, why was Kurtz right? Was he truly mad? We cannot give definitive answers to these questions. All we can do is try to find the answers. So, for that we have various sources at hand. First, we can take Heart of Darkness as an example, but as I mentioned, the Kurtz in Heart of Darkness is very different from the Kurtz in the film. This difference even extends to the time they spend within their respective narratives. The stories of Kurtz in both works share similarities. Let's briefly take a look at each of them. According to Heart of Darkness, Kurtz is an European filled with ideals of civilization and progress. His goal in going to the Congo is, in line with the European colonial mindset, to bring civilization to the natives, educate them, and contribute to the colonial economy through trade. He also aims to achieve great success in the ivory trade. However, the dark atmosphere of the Congo and the limitless power deeply affect Kurtz. This sense of isolation and control exposes the primal instincts that were once suppressed within him. As a result, Kurtz begins to use the natives for his personal interests and his desire to deify himself. He positions himself as a god, manipulates the natives, and completely disregards moral boundaries. His drive for ivory and personal power becomes his true purpose. Kurtz's aim shifts from the ideals of civilization and progress to satisfying his own ego and seeking boundless power. The famous words he speaks before his death, reflect his recognition of this collapse and his acceptance of the dark side of human nature. In the film, the area Kurtz controls symbolizes his dark governance. The natives view Kurtz as a kind of divine figure and completely obey him. Kurtz has understood the horror of the war and opposed it, but this rebellion has driven him to madness. The film's Kurtz serves as a warning figure about the decay of social order and human nature. Beyond civilization, the pursuit of survival and power demonstrates how much it can change a person. Kurtz's goal, which once was to serve his country, gradually morphs into a quest to obtain absolute power within the free, self-governed system he establishes in Vietnam. He is deeply affected by the war's senselessness and the corruption of society and begins to see himself as a god. Technically, both Kurtzes share the same fate. They initially act in pursuit of a higher purpose, but once they realize they have been used as tools for that very purpose, they rebel and establish their own communities. One of them only considers his own interests, leading his community to destruction in pursuit of his goals. This is the Kurtz from Heart of Darkness. The Kurtz in the film, on the other hand, comes to realize he is fighting in the wrong war. At the beginning of the film, Captain Benjamin, who takes orders from the general, learns from the information provided that Kurtz has attacked American soldiers and has become a dangerous figure. This is why the captain is sent to kill him. But remember his final words. In the end, the captain realizes that no one is right in this war. He then returns to his boat, which ultimately drifts, once again, toward the heart of darkness.